The kitchen smelled like rosemary and garlic. I was halfway through dicing onions for a simple pasta when Vivienne's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "What are you doing?" I looked up. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing that expression I'd come to recognize over 6 years, not quite anger, but something colder, territorial. Making dinner, Desmond mentioned he'd be home late from the office, so I thought this is my kitchen. She stepped closer, her designer heels clicking on the tile I'd personally selected 35 years ago. "I've told you this before, Bartholomew. I don't want you using my space. It throws off my organization." The knife felt heavy in my hand. "It's just pasta. I'll clean everything." "That's not the point." She moved to the cutting board, swept the diced onions into the trash with one motion. "Old men shouldn't be cooking anyway." "What if you cut yourself? What if you leave the stove on?" "This isn't safe." I set the knife down carefully. 67 years old, and I was being treated like a child who couldn't be trusted near sharp objects. "Vivienne, I've been cooking for 40 years, since before you were born, and you're not getting any younger." She opened the refrigerator, started pulling out containers. "I'll make something. You can go watch TV in your room. Your room, not the guest room, not your space. Your room, like I was a tenant in a boarding house." I dried my hands on the towel, keeping my voice level. "I live here too, technically." She didn't look at me, just arranged ingredients on the counter with aggressive precision. "But let's be honest about whose home this really is." Desmond works 60-hour weeks. I manage everything: bills, maintenance, design. You're just here. The dismissal was so casual it almost didn't register as an insult. Almost. I walked out without another word. Through the living room with its mid-century furniture Vivienne had insisted on buying. Past the hallway lined with photos where I appeared in exactly 3 frames, always pushed to the edge, up the stairs to the top floor. My room, technically. The apartment, because that's what it was. A full floor had been mine since 1,500 square feet of open space I'd designed myself when I bought the building. Exposed brick, tall windows overlooking Pacific Heights. Custom built-ins that predated Vivienne by 2 decades, but she'd been slowly colonizing it for 6 years. Her throw pillows on my couch, her scented candles on my shelves, her art prints covering walls where my architectural sketches used to hang. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The screen glowed in the dimming afternoon light as I logged into my bank account. Movements automatic after 35 years of careful management. Primary checking for investment portfolio 21 property holdings, 1 building in Pacific Heights, San Francisco. Current assessed value 30. I owned the entire building, all 4 floors. Had since 1987. Purchased with proceeds from selling my architecture firm. The bottom 3 floors generated $18,000 monthly in rental income. The top floor where I sat now was mine to occupy. Desmond and Vivienne lived on the 3rd floor. Rent, duration 6 years. Contribution to building maintenance, depreciation for free housing, also duration. They didn't know. Desmond thought the building belonged to some faceless investment company, that I was just another tenant, barely scraping by on architect's pension. Vivienne thought even less of me, a burden they tolerated out of family obligation. I'd kept it secret deliberately. After my wife Margaret died 12 years ago, after watching distant relatives suddenly become attentive when they learned about the life insurance, I decided live small, let people show you who they really are. Desmond had shown me, or rather his wife had shown me, and he'd stood by silently while she did it. 6 years of Bartholomew. You're using too much hot water. 6 years of Bartholomew. Can you walk quieter? The noise, Carrie. 6 years of being erased, diminished, made to feel like an unwelcome guest in my own property. The kitchen incident wasn't new. It was just the latest drop in a bucket that had been filling for years. I closed the laptop and looked around my colonized space, at Vivienne's decorative decisions imposed on my home, at the life I'd allowed to shrink because I'd wanted to see if my son would stand up for me. He hadn't. I picked up my phone and scrolled through contacts, found the name I needed. Octavia Sterling, real estate attorney. We'd worked together years ago on a commercial development project. Sharp, ruthless when necessary. Exactly who you wanted when boundaries needed enforcing. I pressed call. She answered on the third ring. Bart Whitmore? It's been what? 8 years? 9. I need legal advice. Family matter? Her tone shifted to professional. I'm listening. My son and daughter-in-law are living in my building rent-free. Have been for 6 years. The situation has become untenable. I want to understand my options. Your building, you own it outright since '87? They don't know. Silence. Then they think they're doing you a favor by letting you stay there? Exactly that? Oh, Bart, she sounded almost amused. Come to my office tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bring documentation, deed, rental agreements, anything showing ownership. We're going to have an interesting conversation. After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness. Didn't turn on light, just watched San Francisco's evening settle over the city through windows I'd specifically positioned to capture the sunset. Downstairs I heard Vivienne's voice, then Desmond's, lower, agreeable. The sounds of dinner being prepared in my kitchen that I wasn't allowed to use. Something had shifted. Not anger that was too hot, too reactive. This was colder, clearer. For 6 years I'd made myself small, let them treat me like a dependent. Waited to see if Desmond would remember who his father was, what I'd sacrificed, what I'd built. He hadn't remembered, or he'd chosen not to. I stood and walked to the window. The city lights were coming on, thousands of them, each one representing someone going about their life, making choices, living with consequences. Tomorrow, I'd start making different choices. Vivienne wanted to treat me like nothing? Fine. I'd show her exactly what nothing looked like, and then I'd show her what I'd been all along. The building owner, the landlord, the man who'd been subsidizing her lifestyle while she called it her kitchen. My phone buzzed. Text from Desmond. Dad, Viv says dinner's ready. Come down. I looked at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back. Not hungry, thanks. I'd eaten enough humble pie. Time for something different. Octavia Sterling's office occupied the 42nd floor of a financial district tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Bay Bridge. Ferry boats crossing slate-gray water. Her receptionist, a young man with expensive glasses, offered espresso. I accepted. Octavia emerged from her office, exactly at early 50s, silver blonde hair, tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. We shook hands. Bart, you look good. Retirement agrees with you. Semi-retirement. I still consult occasionally. Of course you do. She gestured me into her office. Minimalist, expensive, efficient. We sat across from each other at a glass conference table. Show me what you brought. I opened my folder. Building deed from 1987. Property tax records showing continuous ownership. Rental agreements for floors 1 through 3. Bank statements documenting rental income. Documentation of all building improvements I'd funded over 35 years. Nothing with Desmond or Vivienne's name on it, because they'd never contributed. Octavia reviewed everything methodically. When she looked up, her expression was sharp. They've been living there 6 years, completely rent-free? Yes. Contributing to maintenance, utilities, property tax? No. I cover everything, and they believe that the building belongs to an investment company, that I'm a tenant like them. My son knows I'm his father, obviously, but thinks I'm barely getting by on pension income. Why the deception? I chose my words carefully. After my wife died, I wanted to see if my family valued me or my assets. The answer became clear. Octavia nodded slowly. The daughter-in-law. Vivienne, you said, she's the primary issue? She treats me like an unwelcome guest, forbids me from using the kitchen, criticizes how I live, makes demands about noise, water usage, space. My son says nothing, and you want her gone. I want them both gone. If Desmond won't stand up for me, won't contribute, won't treat me with basic respect in my own property, then he can find somewhere else to live. Octavia pulled out a legal pad, began writing. California tenant law is complex, but you have significant advantages. They're not paying rent, which means they're technically guests or licensees, not tenants. You can terminate their permission to occupy at will. How quickly? 30 days written notice. If they refuse to leave, you file unlawful detainer eviction with your documentation. It's straightforward. The challenge is the family aspect. I understand. That's why I'm here. She looked at me directly. Bart, this will destroy your relationship with your son. You know that. The relationship is already destroyed. He just doesn't know it yet. All right, she made notes. I recommend a strategic approach. First, we serve notice to quit. Formal, legal, cold. No room for negotiation or emotional appeals. Second, we prepare for the revelation. When they discover you own the building, they'll be shocked, angry, probably vindictive. We need to control that moment. Third, we secure your other assets. If they try to challenge anything, we want ironclad protection. What about my will? We'll revise it. Currently, everything goes to Desmond? Yes. We change it to 70% Desmond, 30% charities. Shows you're of sound mind, considered your son, but chose to limit his inheritance. Protects against claims of undue influence or incompetence. I nodded. This was exactly why I'd called Octavia. She thought 3 steps ahead. We spent the next hour on strategy. The notice would be drafted by end of week. I'd need to document every interaction with Vivienne and Desmond from here forward, keep a log, record conversations if necessary. California is a 2-party consent state, but if they became threatening, documentation would be crucial. Cost, $8,000 retainer. I wrote the check without hesitation. One question, Octavia said as I was leaving. Why now? After 6 years, what finally pushed you? Yesterday, Vivienne threw away my food and told me old men shouldn't cook, said it wasn't safe, treated me like I was senile. I paused at the door. I'm 67, Octavia. I have at least 20 good years left. I'm not spending them being disrespected in my own home by someone who thinks she owns what's mine. If this story reminded you of the injustices you've seen, follow the channel and turn on notifications, because wherever justice is delayed, a new revenge story begins. Good answer, she smiled. I'll have the notice ready Friday. Be prepared for the war to start. I took the elevator down 42 floors. When I emerged onto California Street, the fog was burning off. The city stretched around me, vibrant and indifferent. War, the word felt appropriate. For 6 years I'd lived in peacetime, accepting terms I should never have accepted. Now it was time for something different. I pulled out my phone and made another call. Rex Kane, private investigator. We'd met years ago through a colleague, stayed in touch sporadically. Rex, it's Bart Whitmore. Bart, long time. What can I do for you? Background check. Thorough, on my daughter-in-law. Name's Vivienne Whitmore. Maiden name Vivian Ashcroft. Age 30. Married to my son for 6 years. Looking for anything specific? Previous marriages, financial history, legal issues, anything that shows a pattern. She treats me like I'm nothing. I want to know who she really is. I'll send you my rate sheet. 2 to 3 weeks for comprehensive result. Take 4 if you need it. I want everything. After hanging up, I stood on the sidewalk. People streamed past. Tourists, office workers, delivery drivers, all of them going about lives where they probably didn't have to hire investigators to research their own family. But I wasn't most people. I was a man with resources who'd finally decided to use them. I walked to a nearby cafe, ordered lunch, sat by the window and watched the city move. Tomorrow, I'd return home, to my building, to my apartment, to the space Vivian thought she controlled. But first, I'd enjoy this moment. The clarity of decision made, the anticipation of watching carefully constructed lies collapse. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to my banking app. Looked at those numbers again. $2 million in investments, $3.2 million in property. More than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. And Vivienne thought I was a burden they were generously housing. The irony was sharp enough to taste. I finished my lunch slowly, savoring it. Then I took a rideshare back to Pacific Heights, to my building, where the war was about to begin. 4 days passed. 4 days of careful documentation. I bought a small notebook, kept it in my jacket pocket. Every interaction went in there with timestamps. Tuesday, 2:14 p.m. Vivienne commented that my walking makes too much noise, suggested I wear slippers indoors. Her tone was condescending, maternal. Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. Found my mail opened on the kitchen counter. Vivienne said she accidentally opened my bank statement. Apologized, but I saw her eyes linger on the numbers before I took it. Thursday, 6:45 p.m. Desmond asked if I could try to use less hot water. Said Vivienne mentioned the utility bills are high. I reminded him I've offered multiple times to contribute to utilities. He said that's not the point. Friday arrived. Octavia had texted that morning. Notice ready. Courier delivering to your building at 2 p.m. You should be present. I was in my apartment when the doorbell rang at exactly 2. I went downstairs. A courier stood there, professional, holding a manila envelope, delivery for Desmond Whitmore and Vivienne Whitmore. Vivienne appeared from the 3rd floor landing. I'll take that. Need to hand it directly to the addressees. Building policy. She descended, annoyed, took the envelope, signed for it. The courier left. What is this? She turned the envelope over. Saw the law firm name. Her expression shifted. Sterling and Associates? I stood in the 1st floor hallway watching. Said nothing. Desmond emerged from their apartment. What's going on? Some legal thing. Vivienne opened the envelope, pulled out documents, started reading. I watched her face cycle through confusion, disbelief, then something close to fury. This is an eviction notice. Desmond moved closer. What? It says we have 30 days to vacate the premises. Her voice rose. Who would? She looked at me. Did you do this? I did. You? She laughed, but it sounded forced. You can't evict us. You don't have authority. We rent from me. I kept my voice level. I own this building, all 4 floors. Have since 1987. Silence, complete, absolute silence. Desmond's mouth opened, closed, opened again. What? The building, 3rd and T48 Washington Street. I'm the sole owner, have been for 35 years. Vivienne's face had gone pale. That's not possible. We rent from no one. You've been living here rent-free for 6 years. I allowed it because Desmond is my son. That allowance is now terminated. Dad, Desmond's voice cracked. Is this a joke? I pulled out my phone, opened the deed document I'd scanned, held it up. Bartholomew James Whitmore, sole owner. Purchased October 9. Current assessed value $3.2 million. Vivienne snatched my phone, stared at the screen. Her hands trembled slightly. You've been pretending to be poor? Her voice dropped to something dangerous. Living here acting like you're barely getting by, and you own a $3 million building? I own it, yes, and I've been subsidizing your lifestyle while you forbade me from using my own kitchen. The irony isn't lost on me. Desmond found his voice. Why didn't you tell us? I wanted to see if you'd treat me with respect regardless of my financial situation. You didn't. I gestured to the notice in Vivienne's hand. That's legal documentation. 30 days to vacate. If you refuse, I'll file formal eviction proceedings. This is insane. Vivienne turned to Desmond. Tell him he can't do this. But Desmond was staring at me with something like understanding dawning. The pension you always talked about. The fixed income. That was all. Theater. I live on investment returns and rental income from the 3 floors below yours. Your floor generates no income because I let you live here free. That arrangement is over. Vivienne's shock was transforming into calculation. I could see it happening. 35 years you've owned this. That means when Desmond and I married, I already owned it. Yes, but we're family. When you die, my will leaves 70% to Desmond, 30% to charities. He'll inherit comfortably, but not this building. This I'm selling. That was a lie. I had no intention of selling. But I wanted to see her reaction. She didn't disappoint. You can't sell our home. It's not your home. It's my property, and I can do whatever I want with it. Desmond finally spoke, his voice quiet. Dad, can we talk? Just you and me? Everything that needs saying is in that notice. Read it carefully. 30 days. I suggest you start looking for apartments. I turned and walked back upstairs, left them in the hallway, reading and rereading the legal notice that had just shattered their assumptions. In my apartment, I sat at my desk, hands steady, heart rate normal, no guilt, no second guessing, just clarity. The war had begun. The pounding on my door started at 7:00 a.m. the next morning. Saturday. I'd slept well, which surprised me. No guilt, no anxiety, just the deep sleep of someone who'd finally stopped pretending. Dad, open up. Desmond's voice, urgent, strained. I took my time, made coffee first, let him knock 3 more times. Then I opened the door. He looked terrible, hair uncombed, same clothes as yesterday, eyes red-rimmed. Behind him, Vivienne stood with arms crossed, her expression cold and calculating. We need to talk. Desmond pushed past me into my apartment. Vivienne followed, her eyes scanning the space like she was seeing it for the first time. I closed the door. Coffee's fresh if you want some. I don't want coffee. Desmond paced to the window, turned back. I want to understand what the hell is happening. You own this building for 35 years? And you never told me? I didn't tell anyone. Why? The word came out raw, accusatory. I poured myself a cup, took a deliberate sip. After your mother died, people changed. Relatives who'd ignored me for years suddenly wanted lunch. Friends who'd disappeared became attentive. Everyone wanted to know about life insurance, about investments, about what I planned to do with the house. That's different. That's not me, isn't it? I set my cup down. When was the last time you asked about my life? Not about whether I was being too loud or using too much water. About me. What I think, what I want, what I've built. Desmond's mouth opened, closed. No answer came. Vivienne stepped forward. Her voice was controlled, reasonable. Bartholomew, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Yes, I've been protective of the kitchen, but that's because I worry. You're 67, accidents happen. I was trying to keep you safe. By throwing away my food and telling me old men shouldn't cook, that came out wrong. I was frustrated, having a bad day. But that doesn't mean you should evict your own son over a few kitchen disagreements. I looked at her directly. This isn't about the kitchen. This is about 6 years of being treated like a bird. 6 years of contributing nothing, no rent, no utilities, no maintenance, while acting like you own what's mine. We didn't know it was yours. Vivienne's control slipped. You let us think. I let you show me who you are, and you showed me. Desmond found his voice again. Fine. You're angry. I get it. But eviction? That's nuclear. Can't we work something out? What would that look like? We pay rent, market rate, sign a lease. I'll have a contract drawn up, everything formal. Vivienne shot him a look. Desmond, it's fair, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. If Dad owns the building, we should pay rent. I calculated quickly. A 3-bedroom apartment in Pacific Heights, 3rd floor, 1,800 square feet. Market rate was roughly $5,500 over 6 years. They'd lived here free. That was $96,000 in unpaid rent. What would you do at this point? Write it in the comments. Your thoughts are as important as the story itself. $5,500 a month, I said, plus back rent, 6 years at market rate, $96,000. Vivienne's face went white. That's insane. We don't have that kind of money. Then the eviction stands. Dad, Desmond stepped closer. Please, don't do this. We're family. Family doesn't forbid family from using their own kitchen. Family doesn't treat family like charity cases. Family contributes, will contribute now. Going forward, fresh start. I shook my head. Too late. I've made my decision. Vivienne's mask dropped completely. You cruel, selfish old man, we took you in, gave you a place to live, and this is how you repay us? The revisionist history was staggering. You took me in, this is my building. You know what I mean? We could have pushed you to a retirement home, could have demanded you leave when things got difficult, but we let you stay because Desmond has a soft heart. Let me stay, in my own building. Fine, her voice rose. You want us gone? We'll go, but don't expect a relationship after this. Don't expect phone calls on holidays. Don't expect to meet your grandchildren if we have them. You're choosing property over family. I met her eyes, held them. No, I'm choosing dignity over disrespect. There's a difference. Desmond looked between us. Viv, stop. This isn't helping. Helping, she wheeled on him. Your father is evicting us. And you're what, trying to negotiate? He doesn't want negotiation. He wants control. Wants to punish us for not knowing he was secretly wealthy. I want you to leave my property. I kept my voice level. 29 days remain. I suggest you start packing. Vivienne stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Desmond lingered, looking lost. Dad, please, give us 60 days, just to find something decent. 30 days isn't enough time. It's standard legal notice. But we're not standard, we're family. You keep using that word. I'm not sure you understand what it means. He flinched. Then, quietly, I do love you. You know that. Do I? The question hung in the air. Desmond couldn't answer it. He walked out, closing the door softly behind him. I stood alone in my apartment. Outside, San Francisco was waking up. Saturday morning joggers, dog walkers, the city's weekend rhythm beginning. I pulled out my phone and texted Octavia. They know. Reacted exactly as predicted, standing firm on 30 days. Her response came quickly. Good. Document everything. If they cause problems, we're ready. I poured more coffee and walked to the window. Watched the street below, the life of the city continuing indifferent to family drama. Part of me had hoped Desmond would surprise me, would stand up, would understand, would show some recognition of what he'd allowed to happen. He hadn't. The war continued. I heard them upstairs, arguing in voices that carried through vents and old walls. Vivienne's anger, Desmond's defensive responses, the sound of doors slamming. I documented everything in my notebook. Every hostile glance in the hallway, every passive-aggressive comment. Vivienne had stopped pretending civility. She'd walked past me without acknowledgement, or worse, with a smile that promised retaliation. Thursday afternoon, I returned from grocery shopping to find the building's main entrance door propped open. Inside, 2 men were measuring the hallway. Excuse me, I set down my bags. What's going on? One of them looked up. Renovation estimate. Mrs. Whitmore hired us. Mrs. Whitmore doesn't have authority to hire contractors for building renovations. The man checked his clipboard. Says here she's the property manager, needs the entrance updated, some interior walls modified. Property manager? Vivienne had literally invented a title. I'm the building owner. This isn't authorized. You need to leave. Sir, we've got a signed work order. It's fraudulent. I own this building. Bartholomew Whitmore. I can show you the deed if needed. The contractors looked at each other. The older one shrugged. We don't want to be in the middle of a dispute. Mrs. Whitmore can call us when this is sorted." They packed up and left. I carried my groceries upstairs, then pulled out my phone, texted Octavia. Vivienne tried to hire contractors for unauthorized renovations, claimed to be property manager. Need documentation. Her response: file a police report. Fraud. Also restraining order if this escalates. I'm drafting it now. I sat at my desk and called the contractor's company, explained the situation to their office manager, asked for copies of whatever Vivienne had signed. They agreed to email everything. The documents arrived an hour later. A work order for $28,000 worth of renovations, signed by Vivienne Whitmore, property manager. Third, she'd forged property management authority, tried to commit fraud using my building. I forwarded everything to Octavia with a simple message, evidence attached. That evening, Desmond knocked on my door. He looked exhausted. "Dad, can I come in?" I stepped aside. He entered, hands in pockets. Wouldn't meet my eyes. "Vivienne's losing it. The contractor thing, she didn't tell me about that until after. I had no idea she was going to." He stopped. "I'm not defending it, but she's scared. We've been looking at apartments. Everything in our price range is terrible." "That's not my problem." I know it's not." He finally looked at me. "But Dad, you have to understand. She thought this was our building. We've lived here 6 years, made plans around staying here, and suddenly it's all being ripped away. She thought wrong. Making plans based on false assumptions doesn't create rights. Can't you have some compassion?" Subscribe and stay tuned so you don't miss any true revenge stories. Sometimes, even silence is the strongest form of revenge. I had 6 years of compassion. I let you live here free. Accepted being treated poorly. Watched my own son stand by while his wife disrespected me. Where was your compassion then? Desmond sat heavily on my couch. "I should have said something, I know that now. But Vivienne is strong-willed, and I thought you didn't mind. You never complained. I shouldn't have to complain about basic respect in my own home." "You're right. You're absolutely right." He rubbed his face. "I've been a terrible son." The admission hung in the air. I wanted to feel vindication. Instead, I just felt tired. "Yes, you have. Is there any way to fix this? Any way back?" "Not while you're married to Vivienne. She's shown me exactly who she is. Fraudulent work orders, lying about property management. Next it'll be something worse. She's desperate. Desperate people are dangerous." I walked to my desk, pulled out the contractor documents. "This is fraud, Desmond. I could file charges, have her arrested." His face went pale. "You wouldn't. I'm documenting everything. If this escalates further, if she tries anything else, I will." He nodded slowly, stared at the papers like they were a snake. "Can I ask you something?" "Ask." "Why did you pretend to be poor?" "Really?" I considered the question. "After your mother died, you changed, became distant. Then you met Vivienne, and she took over. I wanted to see if you'd value me without money being part of the equation. The answer was no. You valued her comfort over my dignity." "That's not fair, isn't it? Every time she criticized me, you said nothing. Every time she made demands about my behavior, you supported her. You chose her over me repeatedly. That's fair observation, not unfair judgment." Desmond stood. 22 days left. We'll be gone, and then you'll have your building back, your dignity, your precious property. Hope it keeps you warm." He left. The door closed with a soft click that felt like finality. I sat alone in the silence. Outside, the city lights came on as evening descended. Thousands of windows illuminating, each one representing someone with their own complications, their own family dramas. Mine just happened to involve millions in real estate and a daughter-in-law who tried to commit fraud. I opened my laptop and added today's events to my documentation file, the unauthorized contractors, the fraudulent work order, Desmond's admission that he'd been a terrible son, all evidence, all ammunition if things got worse. And I had a feeling they would get worse before they got better. Rex Kane called on a Tuesday afternoon 2 weeks after I'd hired him. I was at a cafe in North Beach, having lunch, trying to enjoy normalcy. "Bert, got your report. You sitting down? Should I be?" "Yeah. This is significant. I found a quiet corner, away from other diners. I'm listening. Vivian Ashcroft. Before marrying your son, she had 2 previous marriages, both to wealthy men." My stomach tightened. "Go on." "Husband number 1, Gregory Ashcroft, commercial real estate developer, married 209, divorced 2012. He died in 2013, fell from a balcony at his vacation home. Ruled accidental. Blood alcohol was high." "And Vivienne?" "She'd already divorced him, but there was a life insurance policy that hadn't been updated. She collected $750,000. I felt cold despite the cafe's warmth. "And husband too?" "Nathan Marks, investment banker, married 20. That one got ugly. He accused her of financial manipulation, claimed she'd forged his signature on documents moving assets. His attorneys filed fraud charges, but they settled out of court, terms sealed." "How much did she get?" "Nothing from the settlement. That's the interesting part. Usually these things end with the wife getting something. She got 0. Nathan's legal team must have had serious evidence." I closed my eyes. "And then she met Desmond, 2017. They married 6 months later. Your son makes good money, software engineer, right? Around $180,000, about that. But that's not wealthy, not compared to her previous targets. So she must have thought she was marrying into money, thought I was the wealthy father who'd eventually die and leave everything to Desmond." "Exactly. And you've been living small, so she had no idea about the building or your portfolio. She miscalculated." I thanked Rex, told him to send the full report. After hanging up, I sat with this information. Vivian had a pattern: wealthy men, marriage, financial manipulation or accident, insurance or settlements. Gregory's accidental death suddenly looked very suspicious, and Nathan had accused her of forgery, the same thing she'd just tried with the contractor work order. My son had married a predator, and I'd been living under the same roof with her for 6 years. I called Octavia immediately. "I need to send you something. Background report on Vivienne, previous marriages, suspicious death, fraud accusations." "How suspicious?" "Former husband died falling from a balcony, high blood alcohol, could be accident, could be push. Another husband accused her of forgery, financial fraud. Settled out of court, she got nothing, which suggests his evidence was strong." Octavia was quiet for a moment. "Bart, this changes things. If she has a history of escalating behavior against wealthy men, you might be at risk." "I've thought about that. No, I mean real risk. Accidents, unexplained falls. You're 67, live alone. If something happened to you, Desmond inherits, and Vivienne inherits from Desmond. The implications settled like ice in my chest. You think she'd? I think desperate people with a history of harming those who cross them are capable of anything. How many days until they leave? 15. I'm filing for a restraining order today, and I want you to install security cameras in your apartment, interior and exterior. Document everything." After we hung up, I sat in that cafe for another hour, watching tourists walk by, locals grabbing coffee, the ordinary flow of city life. Somewhere in that normalcy, I'd become a potential target, not just of financial fraud, but possibly something darker. I pulled up my phone and searched for Gregory Ashcroft's death. Found a news article from real estate developer dies in fall from vacation home balcony. Police say alcohol was a factor. No foul play suspected. No foul play suspected. But had anyone looked? I searched Nathan Marks next. Found the court filing for their divorce. Brief, minimal details, but one line caught my attention. Respondent accused of forging petitioner's signature on multiple financial documents, including property transfers. Property transfer, like trying to claim property management authority over my building. The pattern was undeniable. I paid my bill and took a rideshare back to Pacific Heights, to my building, where I'd spend the next 15 days waiting to see if Vivienne left quietly, or if the situation escalated. I had security cameras to install, evidence to protect, and possibly my life to safeguard. The war had just gotten significantly more dangerous. I wasn't present. Octavia had advised against it, but I heard the shouting afterward. Vivienne's voice shrill with rage. "He can't do this. We've done nothing." Desmond quieter. "Viv, just calm down. Let me read it." An hour later, Desmond knocked on my door. He held the legal paperwork, his expression a mixture of confusion and anger. A restraining order. "Seriously, come in." He did, throwing the papers on my coffee table. "It says Vivienne can't come within 100 feet of you, can't contact you, accuses her of threatening behavior and attempted fraud. This is insane. Read the attached evidence." I'd had Octavia include everything. The contractor fraud, Rex Kane's background report on Vivienne's previous marriages, Gregory's death, Nathan's fraud accusations. Desmond read. I watched color drain from his face. "This says her first husband died, fell from a balcony. Accidental death, or so it was ruled. You think?" He couldn't finish the sentence. "That's crazy. You're accusing her of murder?" "I'm noting a pattern. Wealthy men, financial manipulation. One dies, one accuses her of fraud. Now she's tried to forge property management authority over my building. What's the next escalation?" "There is no next escalation. She's not a murderer." "Are you certain?" "Because I've lived 6 years watching her lie, manipulate, and control." "How well do you really know your wife?" Desmond stood, paced to the window. "Gregory was drunk. He fell. That's tragic, but not murder. And Nathan, the one who accused her of forgery. People make accusations in divorces. Doesn't mean they're true. He had enough evidence that she walked away with nothing. Think about that. Attractive woman divorcing, wealthy banker. And she got zero. His legal team had something damaging." Desmond turned, and for the first time I saw real doubt in his eyes. "Even if that's all true, she wouldn't hurt you. You're my father. I'm also the obstacle to her inheritance. I'm 67. If something happened to me, accident, fall, sudden illness, you inherit. Then she has access to everything. You're paranoid." "I'm careful. There's a difference." I pulled up the security camera app on my phone, showed him. "I installed cameras yesterday, interior and exterior. Everything's recorded, stored in cloud servers. If anything happens to me, Octavia has instructions to investigate thoroughly." He stared at the camera feeds. "You really think she's dangerous?" "I think she's desperate and has a history of escalating behavior that makes her dangerous." 15 days. His voice was quiet. 15 days and we're gone. "Then you never have to see her again." "Good. But Dad," he looked at me, "what about me? After this, after restraining orders and accusations, do I ever see you again?" The question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on Vivienne I hadn't fully considered what happened to my relationship with Desmond after she was gone. "That depends," I said finally. "On what?" "On whether you wake up, see what she is, what she's made you. Right now, you're defending someone who tried to commit fraud using my property. Someone with a history of financial manipulation, someone I have legitimate reason to fear. She's my wife, and I'm your father. Where's your loyalty?" He had no answer. He picked up the restraining order papers, folded them carefully. 15 days. We'll be gone. The apartment we found is small, expensive, far from my office, but we'll make it work. And then he paused at the door. Then I guess we'll see if there's anything left of our relationship. After he left, I sat in the silence. The cameras blinked their small red lights, recording everything. Security theater, maybe, but it made me feel marginally safer. My phone buzzed. Text from Octavia. Order served successfully. She didn't take it well. Stay alert. Final 2 weeks are most dangerous. I replied. Cameras installed. Documentation current. Prepared for anything. But was I? Prepared for my daughter-in-law to be a potential murderer? Prepared to lose my son over property and dignity? Prepared to spend the rest of my life alone in this building, surrounded by renters who were strangers? I walked to the window, looked out at Pacific Heights, at the city I'd called home for 40 years. Somewhere down there, Desmond and Vivienne were packing, planning, probably plotting. 15 days until they left. 15 days to see if Vivienne went quietly, or if Rex Kane's research proved grimly prophetic. I checked the cameras again, all working, all recording. Then I double-checked the locks on my door. My doll. Final section. Moving day arrived on a Saturday in late September. I watched from my window as the rental truck pulled up at 8 a.m. Desmond had texted the night before, "We'll be out by noon. Keys will be on the kitchen counter. No warmth, no goodbye, just logistics." I stayed in my apartment, didn't offer to help, didn't go downstairs, just monitored the cameras, watching boxes and furniture being loaded. Vivienne appeared once in the footage, directing movers with sharp gestures. Desmond looked exhausted, shoulders hunched under the weight of more than just furniture. By 11:30, the truck was loaded. I watched them do a final walkthrough of the third-floor apartment. Vivienne moved through rooms with her phone out, recording video, probably documenting condition for some imaginary security deposit she thought she was owed. At 11:47 they descended the stairs, walked through the building entrance, didn't look up at my windows. The truck rumbled to life, pulled away, disappeared around the corner. They were gone. I sat in the silence for a long moment. Then I went downstairs. The third-floor apartment was empty, completely cleared. They'd taken everything, even the light bulbs in some fixtures. The keys sat on the kitchen counter as promised, along with an envelope. I opened it. A single sheet of paper in Desmond's handwriting. "Dad, I've spent the last 2 weeks thinking about everything, about Vivienne's past, about how she's treated you, about how I stood by and let it happen. You were right about all of it. I didn't want to see it, but now I can't unsee it. I'm filing for divorce, already met with an attorney. It'll take time, but I'm done. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I finally woke up. Too late to save our relationship, maybe, but not too late to save myself. The apartment we're moving to is in my name only. 2-bedroom, just in case I have a guest someday. Like maybe a father who might eventually want to visit, or maybe not. I'll understand either way. Desmond, P.S. Vivienne doesn't know I'm writing this. She thinks we're united against you. Let her think that. It'll make the divorce simpler. I read it twice. Then a third time, stood in the empty apartment holding my son's words, feeling something crack in my chest that had been frozen for months. He'd woken up. Finally, maybe too late, maybe not. I pulled out my phone and typed, "Got your note. Divorce attorney's name is Octavia Sterling. She's the best. I'll cover your legal fees. One condition, you testify honestly about everything." Vivienne did. The response came quickly. Already hired her. And yes, I'll testify to everything. She forged my signature too. Found out last week. Property documents I never signed. So Vivienne had been running the same playbook, forging signatures, manipulating documents, and Desmond had finally seen it. I typed back, 2-bedroom apartment. Smart. Guest room door is always open. When you're ready. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, thank you. Not sure when I'll be ready, but thank you. I pocketed my phone and walked through the empty apartment. My building felt different, lighter. The third floor would need minor repairs before I could rent it again. New paint, deep cleaning, some fixture replacements. But it was mine again, truly mine. I locked up and returned to my floor, opened my laptop, and emailed my tenants on floors 1 and 2. Third floor will be available for rent January 1st. If you know anyone looking, have them contact me. $5,500 a month. Then I called Octavia. It's done. They're gone. And Desmond's filing for divorce. I know. He called me this morning, asked me to represent him. I told him I can't conflict of interest with representing you, but I referred him to the best family law attorney I know, Patricia Voss. She'll destroy Vivienne in court. Good, Bart. One more thing. I contacted Detective Morrison at SFPD, told him about Gregory Ashcroft's death, the accident. He's reopening the investigation. Just preliminary, but if there's anything suspicious, they'll find it. Vivienne doesn't know? Not yet. Probably will within a week. Thought you should know in case she tries to contact you. The restraining order is still active. If she violates it, she's arrested. But desperate people do desperate things. Stay alert. After hanging up, I stood at my window. The city stretched out below. Afternoon sun, making everything sharp and clear. For 6 years, I'd lived small. Let my son and his wife treat me poorly. Waited to see if family meant anything beyond expectation of inheritance. It hadn't, not to Vivienne, and not to Desmond, until he'd lost everything. But maybe loss was what it took. Maybe some people only learned after consequences landed. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Bartholomew? Vivienne's voice, cold, controlled. You've destroyed my marriage. You know that. You destroyed your own marriage, with fraud and lies. I just exposed them. Desmond would never have known about any of it. If you hadn't meddled, we were fine. You were living in my building rent-free, while treating me like garbage. That's not fine. I could have made your life very comfortable, you know. Could have taken care of you properly. Instead you chose this. Chose to ruin everything. You're violating the restraining order. This call is being recorded. Silence. Then you think you've won. But you haven't. I know people know how to make accidents happen. Ask Gregory. Oh wait, you can't, because he fell off a balcony. That's a confession. You just confessed to murder on a recorded line. I heard her breath catch. Then the line went dead. I immediately called Octavia, played her the recording. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm sending this to Detective Morrison right now. This is enough for a warrant. Bart, you need to file a police report immediately. Get protection. She just threatened you. Already calling. I hung up and dialed 911, explained the situation calmly, professionally. Threatening phone call from someone with a restraining order. History of suspicious death. The dispatcher told me officers were en route. 2 SFPD patrol units arrived within 10 minutes. I gave them everything. The recording, Rex Kane's report, Octavia's documentation, the timeline of Vivienne's escalation. One officer, a woman named Hernandez, listened carefully. Whitmore, we're going to pick her up. Restraining order violation, plus that recorded threat. She'll be held until arraignment. She has a history. We see that. Detective Morrison's already contacted us about the Gregory Ashcroft case. This all connects. She's not going anywhere. After they left, I sat alone. The building was quiet. My building, my space, my peace, finally. But it had cost something. Nearly lost my son. Nearly became another Gregory Ashcroft. Another accident in Vivienne's pattern. My phone buzzed. Text from Desmond. Police just arrested Vivienne at our apartment. Did you? I replied. She called me, violated restraining order, threatened me, implied she killed her first husband. It's all recorded. 3 dots. Then, oh my God, I married a murderer. Not your fault. You didn't know. I should have seen it. Should have protected you. You're seeing it now. That's what matters. We texted back and forth for the next hour. Desmond had questions about the building, about why I'd hidden my wealth, about what happened to Gregory Ashcroft. I answered honestly. Finally, can I come by tomorrow? Just to talk? Not to ask for anything, just to talk. I looked at that message for a long time, then typed, Sunday, 10 a.m., I'll make coffee. The good kind. Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you. You're my son. You deserve a second chance. I set my phone down and walked through my apartment, my home, no longer invaded by Vivian's decor choices or territorial claims, just mine. Outside, San Francisco's evening lights came on. The city glowed, beautiful and indifferent to family drama, to threats, to the small wars people fight in their homes. I'd fought mine and won, not without cost, but decisively. The building was mine. The third floor would rent to strangers who'd pay market rate and treat me with basic professional respect. And maybe, eventually, my son would heal enough to visit, to sit in that guest room he'd mentioned, to rebuild something we'd lost. Or maybe not. Either way, I'd survive. I poured a glass of wine, expensive, from my Napa collection I'd kept hidden, and raised it to the window. To dignity, I said aloud, and to never being small again. The city lights flickered below, bearing witness. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Click the box on the left to hear the next story. Thank you for watching.